Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. My name is Buzz Hoon. I'm the host of the podcast. Today, I'm talking with two of our graduates who also happen to be married. Rachel Steibing Frye, class of 2013, and Aaron Frye, class of 2012. Welcome, you guys. Good to see you both.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having us.
That was almost perfect. Like we've been practicing the intro like that. So let's give everyone a life update on where you are, what's going on.
Yeah, so we live in Milwaukee. We have been here for going on 8 years now, which is crazy to think about.
Wow.
I am a producer at WTMJ Radio. I produce the morning show and just have some other different roles with the station.
I am the director of photography for WDJT, which is the CBS affiliate here in Milwaukee.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna go all the way back and talk a little bit about what may have impacted you along the way. So we're going to start, Rachel. I'm going to start with you because I think as we were talking about, you grew up in the Chicago area. Were you a Lane Tech?
Yes,
graduate?
I was. Yeah, Lane Tech.
Did you have an inkling at some point along the line that you were interested in broadcasting? When did that ever kind of show itself to you?
So I actually showed up to my 7th grade career fair, or we had like a career day, and I went dressed as a reporter. My mom and dad still talk about this all the time. I just wore like this little ABC7 hat and walked around with a notebook. And I swear it just randomly started literally like the week before that. I just decided I was going to be a reporter. And through high school, I did stories for our high school newspaper because we didn't have a specific like radio or TV station in high school. But I knew right away that that's what I wanted to do in college. And yeah, that was my focus all through, of course, my time at Western. And so, yeah, it started very early. I don't exactly know where it came from, but always knew I wanted to be in news since 7th grade.
I did not know that about you. That's interesting. Now, how about you, Aaron? You grew up in Alto, which is up near the Quad Cities.
Yep. I grew up in Alto. It's a real small town, about 3,000 people. Through early high school, I kind of wanted to do governmental communications with an emphasis on Spanish and be on that kind of side of things. But junior and senior year, I played football all through. But being one of the smaller schools in the state, the Quad Cities actually would come down and interview us because we had a good team. We went to state finals my junior and senior year. So they would drive, that 45 minutes to an hour to come down and shoot video of us at practice and interview us as kids. And from that moment on, we would always talk, me and my teammates would talk about how special that made us feel and how cool it was. And that really got me interested in broadcasting and sports broadcasting, to be able to do that kind of same thing at that time, it was for, younger players, high school, college. And now it's kind of transitioned on the news side of being able to tell stories of the community that I live in.
Interesting. Now, Aaron, I'm wondering, did you ever consider trying to play football here at Western, or was that something maybe you just decided to give up after high school?
I actually played. So I transferred into Western my junior year, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I actually started at Wartburg College for a semester, played football there. Then I transferred due to some unforeseen circumstances, transferred just right up the road to Monmouth College, played a season there. And then concussions kind of derailed my career. I've had my first one was in high school, and then I've had somewhere between 5 and 8 concussions, which we now know is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Concussions were just kind of starting to become a thing when I was in college. So I decided, I really wanted to focus on my career, and I knew I wasn't going to play at the next level by any means. So I really wanted to clamp down and get into my career. And I knew Western had a great broadcasting program. And so I wanted to make transfer there and really hit the road running.
Now, I remember, Aaron, and maybe I don't know if you remember this, but early on, you wanted to have an opportunity to do any type of broadcasting you could. And I think that you volunteered to do a volleyball broadcast. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't want to look back at that because I'm sure it was just the worst. But I've always kind of been that kind of person where, when I set my mind to something and, it's something I really want to do, let me the smallest thing, I'll gaff, I'll do anything. Just let me have that opportunity to actually do something.
Okay. Rachel, do you remember how you started to get involved in broadcasting early on? When was the first thing? Did you volunteer at the radio station? Was it news? What did you do?
Yeah, I think for me, it was, so my freshman year, I would always watch the newscasts, and that was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. So I would just kind of hang out in the hallways and just try to be up there as much as possible. I think that's such a big part of those college days, is just hanging out with everybody in Sallee Hall, up on that third floor. And then I just tried out and was hoping I would make it. And I was fortunate enough. I think I started anchoring my sophomore year and luckily got better after that and was able to continue to anchor through then. But yeah, most of it was really just doing as much as I could, not only anchoring, but again, just kind of being around for the other newscasts that I wasn't on. And really, like I said, just hanging out in the hallways for sure.
Do you remember any students specifically that sort of mentored you and guided you as a news person while you were there?
You know what? I think just so many people. I think, again, to go back to just Sallee Hall in the hallways, I always remember all the anchor pictures being in the hallway. And again, it was just like, wow, like I want to be that person. I want to have my face up there at one point. So I would just, it's honestly, what my freshman year was, anyone that was on that wall, like they encouraged me, whether they know it or not, to just like push myself and be one of them.
Aaron, do you remember some of the other students and over in Sallee Hall?
So like Rachel said, I also was a big fan of, all the personalities that got to hang on the wall, have their picture up there. So that was one of my driving factors. But there was a couple students that I always kind of, we were similar in age, but they were always so much better than me. And I really kind of looked up to them, and they probably don't know this, but Adam Stutz, and then Kyle Schass. I know those aren't their full last names, but that's what they went by.
Studs
when we were in school. So those were two guys that I always, because right when I got there, I wanted to do sports broadcasting. That was my whole goal, and they were fantastic at it. They still are doing really well in the real world now, and that's not a surprise to me.
No, not at all. And let's talk about how you two met. Do you remember? and who initiated this conversation?
Oh boy. So we actually ended up anchoring together one time.
That's it?
Aaron was a fill-in. Randomly. It was, I think, February of like 2012. I don't know why I remember that. February of 2012. So it was pretty early in the semester. And my co-anchor couldn't show up for some reason. So Aaron filled in because, again, like he said, he just volunteers for everything. So I think he was actually producing that newscast, but he's like, oh, I'll anchor. So we ended up being co-anchors. And then, I don't know, we just started talking after that. And he invited me over to study and it just went from there.
How do you remember that, Aaron? What did you remember when you saw Rachel for the first time?
She was a lot of fun. She was very studious, so some might have called her a nerd. I wouldn't have.
Wow.
But she was
a very good student.
Yes, she was a very good student. We had classes together, and we kind of worked on projects here and there, but nothing until we anchored together. And I still remember this day. She had feather earrings that she thought was appropriate to anchor with.
It was 2012. That was the style.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure I had a very measly beard that I rocked during that newscast, so I am not without fault either. But like Rachel said, ever since then, we would talk and joke, and then one thing led to another. We started hanging out more, and right after I graduated, or right before I graduated, we started officially dating, and from there it's history.
And those are things that I never find out about until it's already over with. And it's like, wow, those are interesting stories. Now, Aaron, I want to drop back a little bit. Now, during your time at WIU, you were also a cheerleader.
I was.
And so, what kind of experiences did you gain from that?
So originally, I didn't plan on doing anything when I transferred into Western. I knew my football career was over, which, was really devastating because football was my life up to that point. And the cheerleading coach at that time, Edith Whitehall, she was actually the cheerleading coach at my high school when I was there. I had a friend from high school who was on the team already, and she asked me to, come try out. It was something that, there's preconceived notions about cheerleading and going from football to cheerleading. I wasn't sure. She's like, just come to an open gym, see how you like it. And, I actually didn't do bad. And it was nice to be around all the people and be around people that you didn't know, different life backgrounds. So being able to, and once I made the team, I decided to go all in like I do with anything else. And being able to learn how to, work, coming from the football background, it's all guys, you're all amped up all the time, and going to cheerleading, it's totally different. It's all technique. It's not totally about toughness and strength. And while those play a factor, it's really learning how to work with the opposite sex and, being able to travel for the playoff games for football over to, I'm pretty sure my senior year, we went to Myrtle Beach to play Coastal Carolina.
That's right.
And then the football team won. We flew back, went to class all week, and then and it was, Myrtle Beach. It's super nice. It's 70s. We fly back, then we have to go play Appalachian State in North Carolina. And it was just the exact opposite. It was a blizzard, but it was so much fun being able to, be part of a team other than broadcasting to kind of just learn a different life experience, I guess.
Yeah. And much easier on the brain than football was.
Much easier. Don't get me wrong. I had my fair share of injuries during cheerleading as well, but it wasn't as bad as on the head.
So, Rachel, some of the things that you were involved with, you were a big part of Simba, which I think at that period of time really helped that organization grow. And as you said, you were also an anchor. And what I always appreciated, you were one of the very first student peer mentors for us.
Yes. Yeah. So back to Simba just for a second. Yeah, that itself was such a great experience. I went to the state conferences a couple times, and it was just a really good experience because you get to meet with different students at different schools. You got to meet with different professionals. I got feedback on my work. So I definitely encourage any student to get involved with that. And as part of that too, we got to organize like the broadcasting banquet, which I always had a ton of fun with. So yeah, definitely that was a huge part of my college experience. But yeah, the peer mentor, that was so much fun. I look back and that's definitely one of the best decisions I ever made. Did that my junior year and got to meet all the freshmen and are still friends with them to this day. Tyler Eddy, who was one of my freshies, lives in Milwaukee, and he was actually our neighbor. They just moved out, but he was our neighbor for like 5 years. Dave Mitch, I still talk to. That was such a cool thing for me because I got to meet like a younger class of people and kind of show them what I was already learning and just kind of be available to them. Like I remember they would just randomly text me different questions and things, and I just loved that. And I think too, it really set me up for just my career too, how to be a good leader, how to teach younger people, how to, really just show a good example in general.
Yeah. When I saw what you're doing now, and I thought that you have this natural leadership quality. I mean, Rachel, I noticed it early on with you that you have this ability. Part of that is like the same thing that Aaron has is this no fear, or at least you hide it really well.
That's it right there.
That's it. Okay. Because I think that you're just a very good leader. Has that been something you've always tried to work towards?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, even in high school, I was involved in a bunch of different things. And it goes back to even the Simba. Like my senior year, I was president of Simba, and I loved, like I said, organizing the broadcasting banquet. And yeah, again, that's even in my career now, it's like my direct title is only producer of the morning show, but I have a bunch of other roles at our station and I love doing them. Like I still kind of organize some events, like different things we do, like a holiday radio show or like help with golf events and just all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I just love being in that leadership role. And I think there's just plenty of little things that go into that. I'm just good at time management and like organizational skills. And those are just things that I've always had since an early age.
Now, what's something you both mentioned in your answers to my questions were that you both felt that there was a big influence on your professional development from Roger Sadler. So I want you to each kind of talk about your own experiences with Roger and the sort of impact he had on your development.
Yeah, for me, Roger was the guy who I could always bounce any crazy idea off of. I was a rambunctious kid. A lot of the stuff I would go over the top with, and he knew when to rein me in and when to let me go. He really let me know how to be a professional. I wasn't always the best student, and I wasn't always the best kid, I would say. But he really showed me what it took to be a professional, and we would have a lot of conversations in his office. He had a couch in there. We would sit and talk, and any question I had, any, idea I had, he was there to listen. And I think he, looking back, he really pushed me to do some things that I never thought I would actually be good at or thought I might be interested in. So him just taking the time to, be a mentor to me really meant a lot. And not only that, but he was actually the one who kind of set me up with my first job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was an alum, Jim Doubt, who called him. He was a chief photographer down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Roger and asked, "Hey, I need a photojournalist right now. Is there anybody you can recommend?" And Roger actually recommended my name. When I was graduating, I wanted to be an anchor. I think that's kind of what everybody wants to do. They want to be on TV. And he, I kind of thought about it, and he's like, I know you want to be a sports anchor. Why don't you just get your foot in the door and you can learn a little bit of everything while you're doing that? And I took that advice and ran. And now I'm in a management role being a photographer. So that was some of the greatest advice for me.
Yeah. And my story is honestly very similar because same thing. I had wanted to be a TV anchor, graduated in May, was literally applying everywhere. July rolls around. I get a call from Roger that just says, "Hey, there's this opening in radio. Would you, I think you should apply. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, not really. But yeah, through Roger just saying, "Hey, you should at least try it." It's at least instead of sitting at your house doing nothing, you can at least be doing something in news. So applied, talked to them, got the job. That was at Prestige Communications in Macomb, which I believe is now regional, but did that for a year. And then at that point, Aaron had just gotten a job in Milwaukee. We had been long distance for about 2 years at that point. So decided I was going to try to follow him. And unfortunately, just where I was in Macomb, I was pretty much a one-person news department. So I didn't really have any mentors or anyone to really go to say, how can I improve? How can I get better? How do I make a tape that's good enough for Milwaukee? And Roger was kind enough and just took time to sit down with me and helped me for several weeks, just kind of work on my delivery and work on a tape that was good enough to send to Milwaukee. And here we are 8 years later. So yeah. It's so great. And I look back on those relationships with all the professors at WIU. I think we did not understand how fortunate we were. I mean, obviously we do now. My sister's in college now at a different school, and she does not have that relationship with anyone in her department. And I think that's just such a great thing that we got from Western, because that alumni association, I mean, even stuff like this is just so great because we all stay communicated. We all stay together. because this really is such a small world, the broadcasting world, and someone's going to know something everywhere. So just those little connections and staying in touch, like stuff like this, is just so amazing and such a great opportunity that Western offers.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because, in both cases, and I saw it over a number of years, Roger had that sort of impact on so many people. It was funny. That couch never changed, but the students sitting in it in his office always did. And they always came away with the same sort of positive impact that he had on their lives. And we are thankful for his time at WIU. Let's talk a little bit about the proposal and the marriage, because I think this is a great sort of story. Who wants to tell that?
You can tell the proposal story.
So I knew for a while Rachel was the one. She definitely made me a different person, made me grow up, takes care of me in all aspects of life. So, I knew she was the one. And when we first started dating, we both said we never want to get married, that marriage wasn't in our future. Just, we wanted to be together. Just, we weren't super thrilled about the marriage idea. We had been up here for 3-4 years, and I took months planning this proposal because I wanted her family there. I wanted my family there. That was a huge thing for both of us as family. So we both love baseball. We love the Brewers. So at the time we went to Miller Park, and there was a country concert going on, and the artist who was performing that night was actually sitting in the suite right behind us. So we got to take pictures with him, and Rachel actually posted on Facebook right after that. She said, "My night is made. This is the best night ever." Not knowing what was coming. And so I had snuck her family in, snuck my family into town, staying at different hotels, snuck them into the section right above us so she wouldn't know they were there.
Oh.
And then right during the
Racing
sausages, after they finished, I proposed, and it had already been planned out. They had snuck in behind us, both our families. And so I proposed at the game. Of course, Rachel said yes. And then she didn't even know. So I had to point and show all our family was there. And
wow.
She broke down into even more tears at that point.
So romantic, Aaron.
Seriously, right? Who knew in 2012 that?
That's right. And so then let's hear about the actual wedding.
So yeah, then we got married 2 years later at a baseball field. Actually, it's like a baseball complex here that has a little ski resort, and they have some weddings there. Again, sticking with the baseball theme. And it was great. It was about 150 of our friends and family, and just a nice little August day. So that was 2018. Nice. So we just celebrated our 3-year wedding anniversary and 9 years together. So it's crazy. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm so happy for you too. So let's talk a little bit about professional life. Aaron, I know you've been out there covering a number of different sporting events. I'm sure that's a lot of fun. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the fun things you've been able to do?
Yeah, the sporting events, as I've already talked about, I'm a big sports nerd. Play fantasy football, watch all the sports. So that was one of the things when I graduated, I wanted to be involved in sports. So wherever I go, I make sure to make a point. Hey, I want to be involved in sports in some capacity. And most of the stations, or actually all the stations I've been at, have been fortunate enough to let me go to games, whether that be high school, college, NFL, MLB. And recently I got to, past 7 years here in Milwaukee, I've got the pleasure of covering, NLCS games out in LA. I was in Denver when the Brewers won or clinched the NLDS, and we were actually in the locker room, and they're spraying champagne and beer all over us. And most recently, I got to cover an NBA championship with the Bucks winning this year. Those were long days. I was in Atlanta when they clinched to go to the finals. So it's been one great experience after another with the sports.
Nice. And then Rachel, let's talk a little bit about news and your job. It would seem like that would be an intense daily adventure. Is that somewhat, how's your day go?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty fair. So yeah, producing the morning show, I start at 4 every day, but then I'm done about noon, which is actually nice because then I kind of have the day to myself and I can do, appointments or random stuff like this and I kind of have the rest of my day. So that's nice. However, Aaron will tell you, I'm basically just always tired. Fridays, Saturdays, we try to do something and I could pass out by 8:00. You just never know what you're going to get. And the other part of that too is, news doesn't stop at noon just because I go home. So you kind of always have to be plugged in and you always at least kind of have to know what's going on in the world. And you just kind of have to be ready to pivot. I put 8 hours on my time card, but I'm still booking things for the show or, sending emails to my hosts or stuff like that at 2, 4, 8 o'clock at night. So I would say that's kind of the hard part, but that's just news life in general. I think, it's you don't just clock in and clock out. You're kind of always on, at least being aware of what's going on in the world around you for sure.
Yeah, it's like you when you start working in news on a daily basis, it's almost like you put on different goggles to where you see everything in terms of, is this something I need to pay attention to? Is this something I need to send to somebody that we need to work on? It's everything now becomes part of your work environment as well.
Absolutely, it does. Even being a photojournalist and now in the managerial role, it's one of those things, even if you're out, we've had instances where we go out of state and we're having a good time with friends and all of a sudden something breaks. And so it's that moment, especially when it's something big, like we had a few years back, we had the Sherman Park riots. And we were actually out of state that first night and it started happening and Rachel and I ended up in a different room, just kind of watching the Twitter feed, watching the updates, trying to stay tuned in, because when something like that breaks, that's all you can pay attention to, at least for us, and then even on a daily basis, it's like you're checking emails after work, you're kind of paying attention to Twitter feeds and it just never stops.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely obviously the case for harder news too. But even in my case, so my show is a 3.5-hour show. And we do harder news, but we also have segments where it's just lighter talker type things. So, that's another important thing that we talk about a lot too. Just for all of us, it's like 4 or 5 of us on the show. And it's just, hey, while you're out and about, what you do in your daily life is show content. It's like if you're out and you see a new pizza place or you're out and you see someone speed by you at 100 miles per hour, just whatever, that can all turn into show content for the next day. So yeah, kind of back to what you're saying, I think I always kind of have those news morning show goggles on because I'm just always thinking, okay, is what I'm doing right now, is this something that can be for the show tomorrow? You know what I mean?
And on that same aspect, there's been times where we're headed to, out to dinner, to a movie, and all of a sudden we come up on something, there's police, there's fire, whatever it may be, they're putting up tape, and I don't see anybody there from my station. I pull the car over, and I start snapping pics to send to web or let the desk know, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not exactly sure. Here's what police have told me. Pull over 15 minutes, figure out what's going on, snap a couple pictures, maybe record some video on your phone. And it's like, okay, I've let the station know. Then we go out to dinner. So, that stuff happens for us quite a bit.
Let me ask you, because I think that it's interesting that both of you are married and working in news. So you have an understanding of what the other's job is, right? And so do you think that helps?
Yeah, I do. I think about this a lot. I can't imagine, even him just coming, I'm not in TV anymore, but he'll say, oh, I got to go get a VOSAT, or, oh, I'm doing this. And just obviously from going through broadcasting classes, I at least know what he's talking about. Yep. Or just the way the news lifestyle is. there are, like he said, there's some days where I don't see him at all, or there's, he just ups and travels somewhere for a week on very short notice. Like, that's just kind of how our life is. And luckily, like, I just understand that because I'm also pretty much in the same, like you said, the same profession, kind of the same area. So yeah, I think we're fortunate, like, for better or worse, we both work. We're both pretty much on our phones all the time and always just in news mode. But I think it definitely works for us, at least. Yeah, like you said, knowing what the other person is talking about, going through, at the end of the day, it's actually really funny. Sometimes, like, I'm always on Twitter. It's a bad habit. So Aaron will, like, tell me something that literally broke 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, yeah, I already know. And he gets so mad.
I can't beat her to anything.
He can't. But that's just, like, one of our things. Like, it's pathetic, but we just always know something within, like, 5 minutes of it happening.
Absolutely. And it's nice, the good days, I can come home and tell her what happened, and she fully understands what's going on. But on the same token, I have a bad day, something happens, or I'm frustrated with something. I know I can come home and talk to her, and she actually understands and can give me advice, which she does regularly, on how to fix the problem or, get over my frustration. So not if I were to be with somebody who wasn't in news, I just don't know how that would work.
Interesting. I like that. I like the thought of you two working as a team. That gives me that satisfaction.
We do too. If she finds something out that just happened, she'll let me know if it's really big. And same with me, hey, I seen this was going on. I don't know if that's something you'd like for the show.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I guess, for us too, because we're not really direct competitors. Like, he's TV, I'm radio. Like, yes, we're in the same market. But yeah, in that aspect, it's not like we're competing for the same story or competing for the same guest. So it is nice in that aspect that we can talk about, hey, tomorrow Summerfest starts. How are you guys covering it? Who are you getting? Like, stuff like that. And we can kind of bounce that stuff off each other. I guess if we were competitors, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but we're fortunate that we're not directly.
I don't want to think of you as competitors.
No.
You would beat me every time.
So let's talk a little bit about sort of recommendations that each of you might have for students now that you've been separated from student life for a few years. What kind of thoughts and recommendations might you have for young people?
So my biggest two are, number one, just try everything. I never thought I'd be in radio. Even when I did get in radio, I never thought I'd be a producer, and here I am, and I love it. And I'm doing all these things that I just never knew were out there or knew that I could do. So, and that's really just, again, it comes from just trying a job I didn't know I wanted to do. And then once I got to Milwaukee, trying all these things that, just raising my hand for different things and just being at the right place at the right time when I would volunteer for something. So I got really lucky in that aspect. And the second thing is, don't burn bridges. Again, we go back to how small this broadcasting community is. And it's really true. I mean, when I think back to all the people we even went to college with, there's people everywhere. And who knows where we'll end up one day. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And it could be thanks to any of those connections. And even in our community, like, TV people move from station to station, even like PR people, you never know when they can come down the road. So whether, like, no matter when I'm booking an interview, doing an interview, like whatever, I just always think about those things. You can be super mad that someone maybe didn't come through for an interview for you or something like that, but you never want to burn that bridge, because you just never know when you might need that person or when they can come in handy down the road, or who they'll know that you don't know they know, and that could come back and burn you later down the road. So number one, try everything, and number two, don't burn bridges.
Good recommendations.
And, I think my answers are pretty similar. Be a jack of all trades. Try to learn a little bit of everything. So when you get into the profession, or you're already in the profession and trying to move up, you have those little skills that somebody else may not. Like, as a photojournalist, I really like to, I'm not real good at it, but I'm still working the writing aspect. So that way you're working with a reporter, hey, what if you worded it this way? Or what if you, ended it with this soundbite instead? Being able to be an all-around storyteller or jack of all trades, like I said, really helps down the road and might end up putting you over the edge for a new job that you want. One of the other things was be nice to everybody. And it comes back to don't burn bridges. You can have arguments with people, you can disagree with people, but make sure that you try to see their side, try to be empathetic, and at least mend those fences if, you do get in that argument or you do go over the top being frustrated. And that's something I had to learn early on, because I do get frustrated easily because my passion is so big that there's times where have blinders on trying to get something done and somebody else sees it a different way. So it's, just having those conversations and making sure you're nice to people.
Well, those are both great recommendations for our students. And I hope that they see that what each of you do is you're telling the stories, as you've talked about, the people in your community, the people that you're around, and how that benefits that community in general. Just terrific. I'm so happy for each of you and you're both doing just outstanding things. And I would say, as you guys know, when we last December had the need to sort of celebrate some of our alums, you were two of the first people I reached out to, and I wanted to ask each of you to be on. And of course, you agreed to do that. It's just wonderful. I'm so appreciative of not only what you did while you were here on campus, which I'll never forget, but also every time I ever ask anything, you're more than willing to help out. And that really means a lot.
We definitely want to thank you for reaching out to us for anything you need. We're more than happy to, give back to Western, because Western gave us everything. Without Western, we wouldn't be in the position we are in today, being able to succeed in this profession. And we still try to make it down to campus once a year, usually. And try, most of our professors are gone, and none of the students that were there when we are there are gone, but we still love being able to come down to the community of Macomb and being able to be on campus and see the differences, and just any way we can help out. I know we are both more than willing.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, it's great to talk with you both, and I hope to see you. I just a few weeks ago got the pleasure of seeing you at High V of all places. Like, really? I'm amazed to see people at High. I always see people at High V, but not you two, which is a special treat. So thanks again, and best of luck. Make sure to stay in touch.
Thanks so much, Buzz.
Thank you.
Okay. And thanks to all of our viewers out there. Remember, if you're interested on being on the podcast, want to recommend someone, just send me an email. We want to hear from you. And we hope that you continue to watch and listen to the podcast, and really appreciate everyone's support. So until next week, stay safe, take care, and God bless.